Welcome to Deep Thought. Facts versus opinion. Facts versus opinion. And I was inspired to do that by a passage I just went over the other day in this book right here, Psycho-Cybernetics. I'm going to put a link for it in the description box. I highly recommend it. It really gets into a person's subconscious and really shows the person how to reprogram their mindset. So it's a very important one. And let me find that page. Yeah, I got a bookmark, but that's something else. Like, I'm gonna tell you something, like with any of my books, I always refer back to them. This is like a library. Anytime I have a certain book, I'll refer back to it. I'm thinking of something and say, hold up, yeah, I read it here. Let me check that again. And in this book, and this is by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and on page 129, he said he has a chapter, he has a section, facts versus opinion. He says, many times we create confusion when we add our own opinion to facts and come up with our own, with the wrong conclusion. Fact, a husband cracks his knuckles. Opinion, the wife concludes he does that because he thinks it will annoy me. Fact, the husband sucks his teeth after eating. Opinion, the wife concludes if he had any regard for me, he would improve his manners. Fact, two friends are whispering when you walk up. Suddenly they stop talking and look somewhat embarrassed. Opinion, you think they must have been gossiping about me. You know? So it's like she, in those instances, there was something actually happening. There was an actual instance happening, an actual event happening. But then, the people, they put, the wife and then the person walking up, they had their opinion. They assumed something based on the fact. And the thing is, when you look at facts, it's something that's definitely happening. It's something measurable. It's something like science. Like when on my men's channel, when I talk about like relationships, I always say it's an art, not a science. I always say if it was a science, there wouldn't be any problems. There wouldn't be any problems at all. Or a fact is something that actually happened. It is a fact that I'm sitting here at before 6 a.m. On a Thursday morning recording this, even though y'all seeing this a week later or a few days later. I think this one is going to come out on a Tuesday. I mean, that's the fact. It's like definitely, you can't argue with it. It's a fact that I have my TV on promoting in something from the Soundscapes channel. You can't argue with that. It's a fact I'm wearing a white shirt. Now, if someone were to offer their opinion, they would say, oh, he does it in the morning for, I don't know, because it's quiet, or he just, I don't know. You can come up with 1,000 opinions. Indeed, some people have seen some stuff at 3 a.m. Okay, it's a fact. Like, oh, my main videos will come out on all of my channels at 3 a.m. Now, my smartphone couch videos and car videos on my main channel, it can come out whenever. It can come out whenever during the day. But somebody will see it. It's a fact that this video is appearing at 3 a.m. It's an opinion that I made it just then, but I always record my videos early. See, you understand what I'm saying? It's like people will add their opinion to a fact and then indeed call that opinion fact. But those are two different things, because that's the conclusion we had, but that's not necessarily the fact. Let me use an example from the whole relationship thing. Like, you got guys, especially guys who are concerned about Chad and Tyrone. They'll say, okay, that guy is 6'2" and he has a square jaw and, he has hunter eyes and everything. Okay, that'll be a fact if that's the actual person. Now, the opinion is, oh yeah, he'll get all these women. But some people will say it's a fact. It's like, no, that's your viewpoint. Or even a better, let me go along with that, because you get some guys who, some content creators, they'll say, yeah, objectively handsome, objectively. No, objectively means the science, because it's an opinion whether or not that's handsome. If you were to ask, like you can hold up any movie star, okay, like several movie stars. I've known women who will look at some of the superstars considered handsome, consensusly handsome, and they say, oh, it's a fact that they're handsome. And I've known some women, they would look at a movie star, a male movie star that's even held up as a sex symbol. It's like, no, the only thing you say is a fact is their weight, their body proportions, and everything. It's an opinion that is a fact, that is a science. That's an opinion. And getting back to what a woman would look at with that man, different women are going to have different opinions. Some women be like, ugh. Other women like, oh yeah, but ultimately that's their opinion. See, a fact is static. A fact is, it just is. You can't argue with it. You cannot argue with it. Like, it's a fact I'm wearing a white shirt, a white Ralph Lauren shirt right now. That's a fact. Now, it's an opinion whether or not it looks good on. You see what I'm saying? Somebody might see me in a shirt. They'd be like, yeah, Ron. Somebody else might look at it and say, oh, Ron, come on, man. Seriously, that's an opinion. It's like what the conclusion you came, or what somebody's behavior. Like I use the examples of the behaviors that's in Psycho-Cybernetics. And the wife, she came to the conclusion, oh, it was something else. But it wasn't a fact that he was doing something to annoy her. He was just doing it. A fact just is. It is. If I look at the temperature in the house right now, it's a fact that it's actually 75. I just turned off my heat. It's a fact. But then maybe like an hour or so, or whenever later on today, the temperature might go down. If I leave the heat off, temperature might go down to 73. It's a fact that at that moment it's 73. That just is. But then it's an opinion whether or not that's hot or cold to somebody. Somebody might come in and it's like, man, it's sweaty in here. That's their opinion. But they might say it's a fact. Well, it might be a truth to them, but it's still their opinion, because the same other person, somebody else might come in and it's like, Ron, you need to turn that heat up. It's cold in here. So y'all getting what I'm saying? It's like the emotional part, your thoughts about it. Your thoughts about it. Even what I present. Now, I could always say, like sometimes people will say, something on my channel, I respond truth. But ultimately, it's my view. That's why, indeed, I don't use the term as much as I should. But even when I talk about body game, everything I talk about is more philosophy. And I've said that before, but I need to emphasize that ultimately it's a philosophy. But then some people will try to come at it and say, no, that's not a fact. It's like, no, that's your viewpoint. And, we can respect it. And I've even said, like, if you're talking about man gets woman on my men's channel, it's like these are different dojos. People will talk about dating coaches. These are different philosophies. And I even told people, even for what I say if it don't work for you, just find something that do. I don't have a problem with it. Different things, because it's different people, different responses, and everything like that. And ultimately, one of the things, and let me say something about, and I'll use the example of that thing when guys will use the term, some content creators, oh, this person's objectively attractive. No, at the end of the day, it's someone's opinion that it is. That's an opinion. That's not opinion. That's not a science that you can't talk about, because see, attraction, like I said, if we're talking about a particular man, you can't say he's objectively attractive. If you have 100 women look at him, they all going to say different things. One might say, yeah, he's all right. The other one say, oh, he's gorgeous. The other one be like, ugh. But that's their opinion. because and you have to be careful about that, because sometimes people will put stuff out. In fact, that's something. Where's my propaganda book? Where's my propaganda book? Here's another book y'all should check out. Propaganda. And one of the things by Edward Bernays, one of the things he talked about, sometimes people will put out information. And hadn't looked at it in a while, got a lot of it underlined. But one of the things he said, like you'll get like maybe some company trying to sell something, and they'll have somebody, some official, supposedly official source say, oh, this is okay. But the reality is they'll pay for it. They'll pay somebody official to say, oh yeah, you can use this product. Oh yeah, this is great, this'll happen. But, you know, you start looking into it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, they're not being honest. But people will accept it as a fact because it's coming from an official source. But at the end of the day, it's their opinion. And indeed, even when a doctor if you really listen closely to doctors when they diagnose a patient, if you listen to them closely, they don't say it's a fact. A lot of times they don't always say it's a fact you have something. It's their viewpoint. It's their viewpoint, you know. But other than what can happen in general, like say you have high blood pressure. Now, in general, they could say, okay, you're in danger of a stroke and everything, but then you got some people who live for years with high blood pressure. Only fact you can say is what their blood pressure is. Now, how they'll live is, you know, how they'll live or how long they'll live. Even though you could say there's a likelihood of something happening, that's your viewpoint. That's the doctor. Both of doctor can say based on his experience. I mean, it's a very valid opinion, but at the end of the day, you don't know. Only thing you can measure is that number, because that can change throughout the day. And in general, let me just say real quick, if you do have high blood pressure, definitely deal with it. But you get some people that live for years with some condition. Or let me use an example. You know, you could say cigarette smoking. Or let me use one, eating meat. Eating meat. Now, at the end of the day, you could say, oh, that's bad for you. You have all the studies and everything. But at the end of the day, that's more of an opinion that eating meat could be bad for you long term. You got some people, they eat meat and they can eat meat and live because of their biology. They can live until their 90s or something, and eating, smoking, drinking, all of that. And somebody else, it might. Now, it's a strong opinion. It's a strong viewpoint that it could be a problem. And that's all ultimately you can give, you know? And I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. You know, it's the conclusion. Now, hey, let's be real. Some conclusions are very accurate. Well, I ain't gonna say very accurate. Tend to be accurate. How about that? Tend to be accurate. Based on your personal experience or someone's personal experience, even the experts. Like, okay, this person's had this, but this is what could happen. If you listen to like any experts, they always suggest this could happen. Anything, it could be anything. Political posters, they could say, okay, I've seen this, this, and this could happen, but then there's always a surprise, you know? But it's not a fact. A fact, if you say something is a fact, it's definite. It's definite, you know? My morning height is a definite, you know? But then that'll change throughout the day. And if I check my personal height at a certain point in the morning, you know, it's a fact whatever it is at 6 o'clock. But then if I check at 6 o'clock at night, you lose maybe a centimeter, because then that's actually normal. But even then, what the exact height is at any given moment is like what it is at that moment. It's a fact measure. If I measure at 12 noon, it's a fact that was the height. That was the weight. You measure the weight too at that moment. So, you know, but then it's it is at that moment, but you know, it's an opinion what that means. what conclusion somebody would come forward, you know? And I hope I'm explaining that. Just think about that. I want y'all to think about that. Just because, you know, a lot of times people present things as a fact, but it's really just their own biases, their own opinion, even no matter how educated the conclusion is. Like even with body game, I don't have a problem. Like that's why I say it's a philosophy. It's a philosophy that's worked for men who followed it. But it's not a total fact that it'll just work for everybody. Because I've heard of some men, they'll hit the gym, muscular, all that, they still having trouble. They still having trouble. But it's a good philosophy. For someone else, that philosophy could have having a really good conversation on Mouthpiece. You know, a physical appearance, like, then that's a great one. It's, at the end of the day, that's an opinion. That's why if even, you know what, I've seen some comments about people held up as very beautiful or very handsome. But interestingly enough, I've seen other similar comments that said, well, those people are ugly. Those people are ugly, you know? So it's just like, it's that person's opinion, that person, you know? And ultimately, it's your own personal opinion. But understand that and just try. I wanted to share that because that's one thing we all have to be careful about. All of us, even myself. I try to say, well, this is my viewpoint. In fact, what I try to say, this is what I see, this, but, you know, that's why I'll say, like, even getting men gets woman. Art is an art, not a science. If it was a science, there wouldn't be any issues. But, and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna put a link for both of these books, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz, and especially this one, Propaganda, you know, because it's everything. I mean, look, I'll use an example of racism. I mean, you know, people will try to come up with some excuse why a different group is having this problem and try to say, oh, it's science, it's science. It was like, at the end of the day, it's opinion. To say this group is inferior or not as smart, or this group is, you know, very good at this and everything, or, you know, any biases or anything, ultimately are opinions. You just try to remember that. Now, some of them can be good opinions, some can be bad opinions. In fact, I actually like the term educated guess, but then anything could happen. Like I throughout the thing with politics, you always have political experts, posters that go on these TV shows and say, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. You know, this candidate is going to win, and then there's a total surprise. That's because at the end of the day, the only fact was who voted for who. Everything else was an opinion. So think about it like that. So anyway, that's all I have for now. And I kind of shared that because I said, you know, that's one thing we all had to be careful about. Like even myself, it's like, even though I'll still, you know, I like a comment, I say truth, but at the end of the day, it's just I agree with the viewpoint, you know? Because we don't know something until it actually happens. So, and you know, the things I share, you notice I never call them a truth, like overall. All I'll say is, okay, I'm sharing my view. This is what I've seen work for myself and other people. But then I've seen other things work, or other people do things a different way. The only fact was, with anybody, they were at a particular place at a particular time, or they weigh a certain thing, you know? I want y'all to think about that, okay? So anyway, that's all I have for now. I'll get back with y'all. Peace and blessings.